Welcome, friends. It's Caleigh Bird, and we are having another Ask an Artist today where I am going to be answering what is a good way to name your art business. Now, I know for some folks this might not really be on your radar, but when it comes to actually establishing yourself as a professional, even as a small business, and doing things like paying your taxes, which we talked about a few weeks ago, or branding yourself as an artist, which we talked about late last year, you definitely want to give some actual thought and energy into the name that you're going to pick, because this is potentially something that could follow you around for the rest of your life. So you want to pick something that has a bit of a timeless feel to it and that you will be happy to grow into and with for many years to come. So today I'm going to be sharing 5 tips to think about when you are officially naming and branding yourself as an artist with a small art business. So first things first, the most obvious one, a lot of people choose to just use their own names, such as artists like James Bullough or ᴍᴏⴜ, and they seem to do quite well with that. Other artists decide to use like an alias, like Crap Panther or The Hula, and they both seem to be doing pretty well at that. So you kind of got to decide, are you going to go with your actual real name? Or do you think you want to go with an alias? And sometimes people even use a descriptor as well. We'll get into that in a second. Now, before you decide on that for yourself, I want you to hear tip number 2, which is think of something broad enough not to pigeonhole you down the road. Like, don't name yourself a specific style or fandom or subject. Like, if you're Susie's Harry Potter art and you get kind of famous doing that, and later on down the road you want to branch out, well, you're pigeonholed into Harry Potter art, and now you can't do something else. I definitely wouldn't do something like Bill's Astronauts, because if you ever decide you want to, paint a T-Rex, well, now you're Bill's Astronauts, and that's not going to fit in. I would even hesitate from doing something like Selena's Landscapes, because there may come a time when you want to do like an interior view, or you want to do a figure, and then all of a sudden your landscapes, that doesn't really fit quite in. So definitely make sure not to pigeonhole yourself too much if you're thinking about a name. Now, of course, while settling on a name, one of the best things you can do is try to be thoughtful of spelling difficulties or something that's memorable or not. Like, honestly, this was something that I kind of wrestled with, because the way my name, Caleigh, is spelled is very unusual from other folks, but I just decided I was going to go for it. So, you might look at me and say, well, Caleigh is kind of confusing, and you're right, it is. I would definitely take that into consideration when you are choosing your name. Not that people with very unusual names or long spellings can't get famous by any means, but it definitely will pose a little bit more of a challenge if your name is, for example, very foreign sounding here in the US that perhaps a lot of US folks might have a hard time spelling, or sometimes if the pronunciation is drastically different than the spelling, that can be confusing for folks. So definitely you're going to want to take into heart how easy it's going to be for people to remember and to spell whichever name you decide on for your art business. Now, number 4 may be the best tip of the whole bunch. It's something I do, and I certainly see lots of other artists implement as well. Consider using the words art or painting or tattoo or printmaker or whatever it is you do within the moniker of your art business name. Like me, I'm Caleigh Bird Art here on YouTube, on Instagram, on my website, basically everywhere I'm Caleigh Bird Art. And what that can help you do is it can help you be found a little bit more easily, like SEO, search engine optimization by Google, or even just generally, on YouTube, if somebody's looking for something art and my name actually has the word art in it, that's going to kind of help me bump up a little bit. Also, if your name has the word art or tattoo or whatever it is you do on there, if you're commenting and interacting with other creators, what's going to happen is their audience is going to see your name with that word art or tattoo, and they're going to be like, ooh, I like art, I like tattoos, and this person's really active, they're commenting, with this well-known creator, so I'm going to go click on them and see what they've got going on. So that basically what that does is it gives you like a mini marketing benefit. That way you're not going around and being like, oh, I'm an artist artist, I'm a painter, I'm an artist. Like, it already says that in your name. People already know. So people are going to be like, oh, this person must really be serious about this because they have that in their name. So it's like a little mini SEO uplift, a little bit of a mini marketing way that you can get other people to sort of pay attention. Like my girl Alethea up in New York City, Art by Ali Go, or the super famous James Jean Art. Oh my gosh, I love him so much. And two of my girls out in Hawaii do it. One is a muralist named Jay who goes by Painting Hawaii. And then, of course, my tattoo artist has done a whole bunch of my work, ZZ Tat. So I really recommend thinking about attaching a very broad artistic term to your name. I think it can hold a lot of benefit. Now, my last tip, number 5, can be a bit of a letdown. So just beware. Hopefully you have not gotten too attached to the name you've been thinking of yet, because the very last thing is, before you settle on whatever you're going to call your art business, you need to check Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all the internet basically in general, to see if that name is already being used. And especially if it's like your own personal name and it's like maybe not the most unusual name. I know in the earlier tip I said, oh, don't call your art business a really unusual name. And now I'm like, well, if your name is really unusual, then it's probably available. So I'm not trying to totally contradict myself, but facts are facts. And you just need to make sure that the name that you want to use is not being used at all, or at least not widely used, or maybe by somebody who's also a small creator on the other side of the world that you don't think it's going to be a problem. You're just going to want to check all of the things and make sure that the name that you have settled on is going to be good on the platforms that you see yourself getting into. Because if not, then you might have to kind of go back to step 1. I'm sorry, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but trust me, it's better to take a little extra time in the beginning before you've got your tax documents set up and before you've purchased the domain name for your website and all that good stuff, before you've established yourself too deep into a specific name for your art business. Just go ahead and do these steps. Make sure you're getting the right one before you cement yourself, because once you start branding yourself, that's a very exciting adventure. Now, hopefully you've got your head swimming, ready to make a list of potential art business ideas, and pop on over to this website for getting all kinds of art business tips when you're ready to take the plunge. And go ahead and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you're thinking about calling your art business. I'd love to hear it. Are you going to go with your name, or are you going to go with an alias? Are you going to add some sort of artistic moniker to the end? Let me know. I'd love to hear it. If you're like me and love drawing on toned paper but hate having to drag around those giant sheets from the art store, then pop on down to the link in the description and sign up to find out when my next sketchbook drop will be. It's going to be coming up pretty soon because I usually like to make a few at a time, and when I start my last one, it is time to start creating the next batch. Pop down below if you'd like to be on the notifications when the next batch will drop. Thanks for being here today, guys. I hope you learned so much. Pop that subscribe button if you did, and I will see you very soon. Take care.